Now, what I'm going to go over right now is some of the features on the Autosports engineering version of the service cover, or the front mount as some of you guys might call it, shifter. Now, the main thing is we don't use any sort of Delrin for the pivot for the main component. If you're looking at this, this is our Delrin housing, the recess, which carries an OEM Nissan spring for the reverse lockout. For those that get that option, it makes it so that it's just as smooth and soft to engage it as factory. Now, the primary thing is, if you can see, we use a 3/4 inch spherical bushing, which means that this thing has a free range of movement. This one we generally oil it up afterwards, but this one has a free range of movement, very smooth, no binding from the bushing, don't have to carry a bunch of grease. They're Teflon lined, so they last forever. They're dry sealed, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And what we do is we sandwich it into an acetal or a Delrin unit, and it's held in place with 2 snap rings. So this is the main component that makes our shifters different than the competition. This is a simple guide on installing the front mount shifter from Autosports Engineering. It's going to be a pretty quick run through, but it'll give you the basics on it. It's not overly complicated as some of you might think. First, we're going to start by removing the tail housing 12mm bolts. Those are done. There are 2 pins in here. Those will come out later. Set your gasket aside. You're going to have the last bolt is going to be inside the cover. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the interior detent. These are 2 10mm bolts, here and here. At this point, the transmission tail housing will be ready to be removed. It's sealed on there with silicone all the way around, so it's going to be pretty tight. What I do, you should have a tab back here. I use a regular hammer, gently. You can try a mallet, but you'll be there all day. This one's already been cracked loose. Once you get it to release, you can usually walk it all the way around with a large flathead, break the rest of the seal, and then the next step is to punch out the roll pin on the shaft we'll be installing the shifter coupler on. For this video, I've already gone and saved the time, but the pin goes through the counterweight here. I've already punched it out, as you can see. Once you get it out, you can punch it all the way out if you want. On this one, I just left it a little bit in. You can remove the weight. Once the weight is removed, we'll be cutting right at the end beyond that pinhole. We're basically going to repurpose this shaft for the coupler. So we're going to go ahead and cover all of this up, make sure there's no shavings. I'm going to get an electrical circular saw, 4.5 inch blade. It'll whip right through it, and I'll show you the end product. As you can see, it's cut down. All I did was cut beyond the indentations for the detent, for the selector. Cleaned up the edges with the burrs. We're ready to go. Next, we're going to install the shaft coupler, which is this. The longer end goes onto the shaft first. The shorter end will actually face towards your drive shaft. That will slip down into place, and then align it and punch the original roll pin back in from the weight. So we're going to install the factory roll pin here, and I've supplied you with a new roll pin for the second. Now you're asking what goes in there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the original shaft that we just cut, and that's what we're going to install. Now the original shaft, what you're going to realize is where we took it out, there's a roll pin here at the end, which is where the factory shifter went through. Now you really don't need all this extra weight. You can cut it down and knock off the rest of the detent indentations right here to save the weight. You can do that afterwards. I'm not going to do that in the video just to save some time, but we're going to flip this over. As you can see, there's the original shifter roll pin hole, and we're going to drop that in here and align the shaft. After you put those two roll pins back into the new shaft coupler, you're done. You can actually reinstall the tail cover in the reverse order of what we did. So all you have to do is put the tail cover back on, put all of the 12mm bolts in, put the detent springs and plungers back in if you took those off, and that's pretty much it. The last piece we're going to install is going to be the new detent relocation. Now as far as the detent relocation, that's going to be this little bracket right here. And you might be wondering, well, exactly what is that? Well, remember the last piece we removed from inside the tail casing before we pulled it out with the 2mm 10s? That's this. This part is pretty much self-explanatory. It's nothing complicated. You can't really screw it up. All you got to do is unscrew this detent and screw it into here, and then put the two 10mm bolts back through these two holes and bolt it back into the tail housing. Now the tail housing can be reinstalled, the same reverse order of how we took it off. And the shifter assembly, there's nothing involved with that because I send that particular part to you fully assembled. So all you have to do is basically drop it back down on the cover. It only has one orientation. You can't put it in backwards. It's pretty foolproof. This video should cover pretty much anything you have. Any other questions, the best advice I could say is send me an email. send me an email, send me pictures, send me videos. Most of you guys have my contact for Autosports Engineering on Facebook. Digital information or contact with you guys back and forth honestly works better than phone calls, because when I'm on the phone, it kind of slows down production. I do work alone. The machine isn't running when I'm here. So do yourself a favor, do all the other guys in the community a favor. Use the digital contacts such as Facebook Messenger, Facebook, the company page, or my email. You can contact me right from the contact us page on autosportsengineering.com. You'll get rapid response. It's easier for you to send files, because if you do run into an issue, I'm probably going to tell you to send me a video or send me pictures, and if you're on the phone, you're going to have to use one of those mediums anyway. All right, thank you.